Stand by for manual transmission. In 3, 2, 1.
Dun, 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 dun. I built a B.A.M.F in black. It'll hit you like a kick to the sack. 'Cause if you shoot me, I'll shoot you right back with my huge gun. So fun. You gotta... Karen, what the hell just happened?
Well, Manus, I just arrived at the end of my rope. And, if you keep making that noise, I'm going to set off the self-destruct sequence without a countdown.
Oh, was I doing that out loud again?
Yes. Now, stop it.
Sorry. Anyway, we're here. Deploy hard points.
I thought it would be bigger.
What? Hey, that's as big as frag cannons get. Besides, I've never needed more.
Sure, Manus. Keep telling yourself that.
Dun 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 dun. 07 Commanders, Nuggets, and Empty Triangles. Mando Dextra here with Chapter 9 of my ultimate guide to bounty hunting. In the last chapter, I showed you the best way to unlock Celine Jean for her sweet, tasty armor and hull upgrades. It's been a long, hard, tedious slog. Elite Dangerous is definitely a game you have to work at to have fun sometimes. But we've done the work, and now it's time to put our new ship together and finally get back to having fun. In this episode, we're going to take a deep dive in the engineering pool. We'll talk about the necessity of going to all this trouble, or not. We'll look at specific mods and discuss why they're used. And I'll show you how I use third-party tools to make the whole process as painless as possible. This is likely to be a long one, so check the description for timestamps to the various sections, as well as links to all the tools I use. And while you're there, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Elite Dangerous content. It only takes a moment, but it really helps to keep your old Uncle Manus bathed in the fine red mist of his fallen enemies. Building an engineered ship is, for most commanders, a grindy, unpleasant process. So why do it? Well, the short answer is because it does make combat a lot more fun and or interesting. However, if you only plan to do PvE combat, most commanders probably won't need to go beyond easy engineering. What is easy engineering? Well, that's what's available from the Level 1 engineers, specifically Felicity Farseer, Todd the Blaster McQuinn, The Dweller, and Elvira Martuk. These engineers offer a mix of upgrades that are relatively easy to get, and they're good enough to deal with any NPC ships you'll encounter. For example, with easy engineers, you can upgrade your frameshift drive, power distributor, and multi-cannons to grade 5, and shield generators and thrusters to grade 3. With just these upgrades, I can easily take out any NPC in the game one-on-one with a Vulture, or even with a Viper with a bit more effort. More advanced engineering is really only required if you plan to engage in PvP or AX combat. This is why I usually include easy and fully engineered versions of all my builds. The point here is, don't stress about engineering and don't let perfect become the enemy of the good. Because easy engineering is good enough for most of the combat you'll be doing in the game. Now, let's plan our build. Every engineered build starts with Coriolis Shipyard. This truly excellent website will allow you to outfit and engineer every ship in the game. This way you can see all the specs, speed, jump range, damage output per second, and more before you take on the arduous task of building it in-game. First, we'll click the little rocket ship and choose the Fer-de-lance. Starting with core internals, we want to upgrade our hull to reactive surface composites. This hull type will give us much better resistances against explosive and kinetic weapons and a bit less resistance to thermal weapons. However, the weakness to thermal weapons can be balanced out with a single HRP engineered for thermal resistance, as you'll see. Choice of hull will vary depending on what you're planning to do with your ship. Since I mostly do PvE with just a bit of casual PvP, I prefer the reactive surface composite hull type because it allows for much greater resistances to specific damage types. For a dedicated PvP or AX build, many commanders use military-grade composites because this gives you the best absolute damage resistance. This is important since Thargoid weapons and plasma accelerators, common in PvP, deal absolute damage. The actual engineering for your hull is also situational. The most common upgrade for armor and hull reinforcement is heavy duty with deep plating. However, since I'm also trying to build a fast ship with a reasonable jump range, I went with lightweight and deep plating for a faster yet durable hull. Another way to go if you're interested in maintaining speed and saving a lot of money is to stick with lightweight hulls engineered for heavy duty with deep plating experimental effect, as this will give you a good boost to absolute hull points for no increased mass at all. You can play around with different hull types and upgrades to see which ones work best for you. This is one of the things that makes Coriolis so useful. For easy engineering, Liz Ryder offers Grade 1 engineering for armor and HRPs, while Celine Jean offers Grade 5 engineering for both modules. Moving on to the power plant. This is another engineering upgrade that's situational. First off, power plants rarely need to be engineered to Grade 5 and might not actually need engineering at all, depending on the ship you're building and its power requirements. For this build, I settled for an armored power plant to Grade 4 with the thermal spread experimental effect, since I already had Marco Quint unlocked and I had this blueprint pinned. This build isn't power hungry at all, so I went with armored rather than overcharged. This mod will make it a bit harder for opponents to snipe the power plant in PvP, while thermal spread will let the ship run a bit cooler. As a rule, you'll want to choose either overcharged or armored for power plants, with either monstered or thermal for experimental effects. Again, all this really depends on the power requirements of the build, but if you don't need the extra power, there's really no need to engineer all the way to Grade 5 or use overcharged. For easy engineering, Felicity Farseer offers Grade 1 engineering. This is actually quite useful for ships like the Vulture that need just a bit of a boost in the power department. Grade 1 overcharged with a monstered experimental effect will increase power output by a bit more than 15%. For more advanced engineering, Marco Quint offers power plant upgrades to Grade 4 and Heratani offers upgrades to Grade 5. Again, I used Marco Quint since I really didn't need much in the way of power, and we have to unlock Marco on the way to Professor Palin anyway. Which brings us to thrusters. There's almost never a reason to choose anything other than dirty drive tunings with the drag drive experimental effect here. This is the fastest thruster configuration you can get for most ships, with the only downside being increased thermal load. I'd say this is probably the single most important upgrade you can get for combat, since it will enable you to escape most enemies if a fight isn't going your way. You can get this upgrade to level 3 from Felicity Farseer and that's fast enough for PvE combat in most cases. For PvP, you'll definitely want to go that extra 5,000 light years to unlock Professor Palin for grade 5 upgrades. For the FSD, I went with a 4A engineered to grade 5 increased range with the Mass Manager experimental effect. This is pretty much standard engineering for FSDs. Some PvP commanders will downgrade this to a 4D to save mass and squeeze every last bit of speed out of the build. This will gain you about 2 meters per second, but it will also cut your jump range in half. To me, that's not a very good trade, but your mileage may vary. If you want to save a bit of mass and money, downgrading the life support to a 4D is a much better choice in my estimation, especially since you're unlikely to get your canopy shot out in an FDL anyway. For the power distributor, we definitely want to fit the biggest and best we can here. This is pretty much always true for combat builds. And we'll want to engineer it to grade 5 charge enhanced with super conduits, as this will give us the best and fastest recharge rates for weapons, engines, and shields, essential for good combat performance. The Dweller, one of the easy engineers, offers this upgrade. For sensors, I went with 4A engineered for lightweight. This yields a build with slightly less mass and slightly better sensor range. But if you're running low on materials, you can substitute a 4D sensor package here, and you'll probably never know the difference. Felicity Farseer offers sensor engineering to grade 3, while Lee Chung offers engineering to grade 5. Moving on to optional internals, we'll fit a Class 5C bi-weave shield generator in the first slot, and we'll engineer it to grade 5 thermal resistance with the fast charge experimental effect. Since shields are inherently weak against thermal weapons, this mod helps to balance that weakness out. For easy engineering, Elvira Martuk offers shield upgrades to grade 3. Fine for PvE, while Lee Chung offers shield engineering to grade 5, pretty much required for PvP combat. The meta build I based this on uses bi-weave shields as well, but many PvP builds feature reinforced prismatic shields, and most use shield cell banks in the next 2 Class 4 slots. In my first draft of this build, I used shield cell banks as well, but I really didn't like them with the bi-weave shields. If you want to use SCBs, I'd go with Class A or prismatic reinforced shields. I kept the bi-weave shields and switched the SCBs out for 2 Class 4D hull reinforcement packages instead. Both of these are engineered to grade 5 heavy duty with deep plating. In addition, I added a single 2D module reinforcement package and another Class 1D HRP engineered to grade 5 thermal resistance with deep plating to help balance out our reactive surface composite hull weakness to thermal damage. As mentioned previously, for easy engineering, Liz Ryder offers grade 1 engineering and Celine Jean offers upgrades to grade 5. In the last Class 1 slot, we have a Class 1A FSD interdictor. This is mostly useful for PvP and power play, as we'll see in future videos. Also note that this build doesn't have a fuel scoop, so keep that in mind while traveling. The Fer-de-lance gives us 2 extra utility mounts as compared to other medium ships like the Python or the Crate. The meta build I referenced used 3 shield boosters, 2 heatsink launchers, and a chaff launcher. Since we aren't using shield cell banks, which cause excessive heat, We don't really need the extra heat sinks, so I replaced them with shield boosters. We're using 3 OA boosters engineered to grade 5 resistance augmented with supercapacitors and 2 OA boosters engineered to grade 5 heavy duty with supercapacitors. This configuration gives us a strong, fast generating shield with extremely high resistances to kinetic, thermal, and explosive damage. For easy engineering, Felicity Farseer offers grade 1 engineering fine for PvE combat, while DD Vatterman offers grade 5 engineering necessary for PvP. And finally, let's talk hardpoints. Meta FDL builds will always have some mix of plasma accelerators and railguns. This is standard for a high-level dedicated PvP build. The meta build I have linked below uses 1 huge and 2 medium plasma accelerators along with 2 medium railguns. If you're really interested in being a top-tier PvP pilot, these are the weapons you will need to master. Be warned, these weapons only come fixed, and it will take a lot of practice to get good. Or if you're like me and you're mostly interested in doing PvE with a bit of casual PvP on the side, I'd suggest, wait for it, frag cannons, when you care enough to send the very blast. On the downside, frag cannons only go up to class 3, so you won't be able to use the FDL's huge hardpoint to its full potential. But that really doesn't matter when you can deliver 1,641 points of damage per second. For comparison, our meta PvP FDL build only delivers 175 points of DPS. Of course, frag cannon's sustained DPS is much lower, but those alpha strikes are massive. And if you're not quite ready for fixed weapons, you can get these gimbaled. However, I would encourage you to try these fixed, as they really work well on the FDL, even against small, fast targets. Another downside, frags also suffer from limited ammo and a much shorter effective range than most weapons. But did I mention that massive alpha strike? To achieve that incredible 1,641 points of DPS, I'm using 1 class 3 and 4 class 2 fixed frag cannons. All 5 are engineered to grade 5 overcharged. The large and 2 of the medium weapons use the screening shell experimental effect, which doubles their rate of fire. 1 of the remaining class 2 frags uses corrosive shells for its armor debuff, and the other uses drag munitions to reduce the target's speed. If you're going for frag cannons, you really need to engineer them fully. Luckily, Zachariah Nemo is pretty easy to unlock. So this configuration works great for me. It excels at PvE assassination missions and will let you hold your own against all but the most skilled PvP pilots. When I tested this build doing massacre missions, I could get between 6 and 8 kills in a conflict zone before needing to reload. For efficient farming of PvE bounties, I'd go for a mix of grade 4 overcharged pulse lasers available from the Dweller and grade 5 overcharged multi-cannons available from Todd the Blaster McQuinn. Weapon choice, especially for PvE, really comes down to personal preference and what you enjoy using. For me, nothing beats the instant gratification you get from frags. So now that we have our build planned out, all we need to do is name it and save it. Also, note those high resistances for each specific damage type. That's what it's all about, baby. Now, If you go over to the top right and click the engineering material symbol, you'll get a list of materials needed for the build. You'll also get the option to send the material list to something called EDEngineer. This is a great tool to help you track and manage your materials. It can actually read your inventory in the game and compare it to your list of materials needed from Coriolis. I used to use this program quite a lot, and I definitely recommend it. Check the description for a link if you want to check it out. However, these days I find myself using Inara much more, mostly because I always have it open on a second screen while I'm playing anyway, and I just prefer the interface. To get the full function out of this website, you'll need to make an account and either link it to your game account at FDev or use a program like Elite Dangerous Market Connector linked to Inara with an API key. Just go to Settings and pick Inara API from the left side menu. Copy your key, paste it here, and click OK. Then the website will be able to retrieve your in-game data. Remember, Inara, Elite Dangerous Market Connector, and EDEngineer are third-party tools, so use them at your own risk. What I usually do is work on one engineer at a time. Let's take Celine Jean. She offers upgrades for armor and hull reinforcement. Now let's go to crafting lists. I'm done with this one, so we can delete it like this. Now let's add the blueprints we do need. For armor, we want lightweight with deep plating, and we only need one. Then just click Add. Next, we want hull reinforcement, heavy duty with deep plating, and we'll need 2 of those. Finally, we need 1 more hull reinforcement, thermal resistant with deep plating. On the right, you can see a list of missing components, and if we click on missing components here, we'll get a detailed list along with possible trades, and right here, we have a link to search for the nearest material trader. As you can see, Inara is really handy. Its biggest drawback is that once you start trading, collecting, or using materials, it will take the website quite a while to update, although you can do a manual update here. For me, this is fine. However, if this isn't fast enough for you, EDEngineer might be a better choice. Since everything is running locally, it will update in real time all the time. So this will probably be the last official chapter of the guide, since by now you should have all the important engineers unlocked and have a good grasp on how to build and engineer ships. From here, future videos will concentrate on interesting ship builds, doing PvP at community goals, and maybe a bit of power play and AX combat. So until next time, Commanders...
Now be released from manual control. Mr. Dextra thanks you for your cooperation. You will now be released from manual control. Mr. Dextra thanks you for your cooperation.
Manus, there's an incoming hyperpulse transmission from your father.
Yeah, don't answer it.
As you wish. Just a moment. Just a moment. Training wheels protocol override, in effect.
God damn it, Dad. You promised you wouldn't use that again.
Yeah, we need to talk about Barry. And take that damn helmet off.
Okay, are you happy now?
Holy shit, are you still 12? Huh. Actually, I just wanted to see if you still have that stupid hairdo.
Fuck you, Dad. Karen thinks it's cool.
Oh, does she? Karen, disable white lies protocol.
Yeah, Manus, about that, it's actually pretty lame.
My whole life is a lie.
Nah, just the funny parts. Now, about Barry, he reprogrammed Fisto again, and he wants to start a brothel on the fleet carrier.
Yeah, so? It's about time he earned his own money.
Except I'll lose my Stuckey's franchise if he opens a brothel on the carrier. Wow, you sound just like me with that voice changer. That's creepy.
Huh. Sounds like a personal problem to me.
Listen, Junior, I paid nearly 7 billion credits for exclusive rights to the Stuckey's brand outside of Earth's atmosphere, so I'm making it your problem, too.
Huh. And how's that working out for you, Dad? You know how many onion head farms you can buy for 7 billion credits?
Yeah, don't worry about it. You know, pecan log cartridges are gonna make a comeback, and when they do...
Yeah, sure they will, old man. You know, at least my dumb haircut didn't cost 7 billion credits. Karen, terminate communications. And, see if you can make me an appointment at, Ohm City Supercuts.